We're about to start the second national lockdown. We've got more than 1 million coronavirus cases and we've had almost 47,000 deaths. Back in March, it was all just beginning.
Across the UK,
this is Greatest Hits Radio.
4 more people have tested positive for coronavirus in the UK, taking the total number of cases here to 40. Boris Johnson's met senior ministers and chief medical staff today at an emergency COBRA meeting. The PMs warn the outbreak is likely to become more significant across the UK in the coming days. A UK-wide action plan is going to be revealed tomorrow. As a bulletin editor, March 2020 is a month I'll never forget. There was a real feeling that people were leaning in to hear the latest. That breaking news again for you. Pubs, bars, cafes and restaurants must close tonight. In the last few minutes, the Queen has issued a message about the coronavirus outbreak. Tonight, an unprecedented statement from the Prime Minister.
You must stay at home.
Earlier in the year, coronavirus was a mid-bulletin copy read, but by March, it was the lead. The number of people diagnosed with coronavirus in the UK has now risen to 115. England's chief medical officer says he's now working under the assumption that person-to-person transmission is now taking place, and the focus is now on delaying an outbreak rather than containing it. The Premier League and EFL have postponed all fixtures until the beginning of April at the earliest due to the threat of coronavirus. The FA's also postponed England's international friendly matches against Italy and Denmark, set for the end of this month. Boris Johnson's outlining the next steps in the UK's plan to fight coronavirus. He's holding the first of a series of daily news conferences this evening after chairing an emergency COBRA meeting. At least 36 people who tested positive for COVID-19 have now died in the UK after Wales confirmed its first death. The news comes as the World Health Organization says our key message is test, test, test.
We cannot stop this pandemic if we don't know who is infected. Test every suspected case.
My wife's a teacher and our son's at secondary school, so on Thursday the 19th of March, I knew that the bulletin I was about to read was going to have a massive impact on my family and on the families of everyone listening.
Across the UK,
Greatest Hits Radio.
When schools shut their gates on Friday afternoon, they'll stay closed until further notice. That announcement from the Education Secretary tonight, as it's confirmed schools across the UK are going to close by the end of the week because of coronavirus.
This will be for all children, except to those of key workers.
We therefore need schools to make provision for the children of these key workers who would otherwise be forced to stay home.
Boris Johnson says the government will ensure students get the qualifications they need for sixth form and university, but he didn't say how this will happen.
This does mean that exams will not take place as planned in May and June.
It's all happening as the World Health Organization says more than 200,000 cases of confirmed coronavirus have been reported around the world and 8,000 people have now lost their lives.
This is Greatest Hits Radio.
In the last few minutes, the Queen has issued a message about the coronavirus outbreak. She says, at times such as these, I am reminded that our nation's history has been forged by people and communities coming together to work as one. The message goes on to say, now more than at any time in our recent past, we have a vitally important part to play as individuals today and in the coming days, weeks and months. You can read the full message on our Twitter feed at GHR News UK. After a week of daily TV briefings, I'd got into the pattern of throwing a head to the presser in the 5, then watching it and writing it up for the 5:30 heads. On Friday the 20th, it was breaking news like no other.
Now let's get the day's news. It's 5:30.
I've got some breaking news for you tonight. The Prime Minister has just given his daily news conference. He's just said we now need to increase social distancing. The PM's telling us we need to take the next step. He's just said pubs, bars, cafes and restaurants must close tonight and not open tomorrow. The same instructions have been issued for nightclubs and theatres. The PM said some people might be tempted to go out tonight, but he made it clear that people should stay at home, saying this is how we will save lives. Well, the Chancellor Rishi Sunak has also spoken. He's just said for the first time in our history, the government will step in and help pay people's wages through a coronavirus job retention scheme. That breaking news again for you. Pubs, bars, cafes and restaurants must close tonight. This was big news with lots of detail that affected everyone. We knew people would be turning the volume up and really listening at the top of the hour. It's an awesome responsibility, really. You just hope you get the detail over in an accessible way, select audio to help tell the story and strike the right tone.
Across the UK.
This is Greatest Hits Radio.
Tonight, an unprecedented statement from the Prime Minister.
We are collectively telling cafes, pubs, bars and restaurants to close tonight as soon as they reasonably can and not to open tomorrow.
So the Prime Minister has just announced this evening that pubs, bars, cafes and restaurants must close tonight. The same instructions have been issued for nightclubs and theatres, gyms and leisure centres. He made it clear that people should stay at home tonight, saying this is how we'll save lives.
Some people may, of course, be tempted to go out tonight. And I say to you, please don't. You may think that you're invincible, but there is no guarantee that you will get mild symptoms.
Chancellor Rishi Sunak also spoke at the PM's daily news briefing. He's just said for the first time in our history, the government will step in and help pay people's wages through a coronavirus job retention scheme. The Chancellor promised the government would pick up most of the wages of staff who are not able to work because of the outbreak. Grants will cover 80% of their salary, up to a maximum of £2,500 a month. Rishi Sunak says all businesses can apply.
The coronavirus job retention scheme will cover the cost of wages backdated to March the 1st and will be open initially for at least 3 months.
It all comes as it's been revealed today another 39 people have died in England, the biggest rise in a day. We've also heard today that social distancing measures may need to be in place for most of this year. That breaking news again for you. Boris Johnson has just said this evening that pubs, bars, cafes and restaurants must close tonight and not open tomorrow. You're up to date. Well, the month ended with ever increasing deaths and a hint of what was to come. Then the Prime Minister found himself at the centre of the story. The Prime Minister and the Health Secretary are both in self-isolation tonight after testing positive for coronavirus. The PM says he'll continue to work from home thanks to the wizardry of modern technology. He'll work from his flat at number 11 Downing Street for the next week.
I've developed mild symptoms and on the advice of the Chief Medical Officer, I've taken a test that has come out positive.
180 more deaths related to coronavirus have been recorded across the UK, taking the total to 1,415. The majority of those are in England, where 1,284 have died. The deaths of nearly 400 more people who tested positive for COVID-19 have been announced today. Cabinet Minister Michael Gove's given the daily government briefing.
These numbers reinforce the vital importance of following the government's social distancing guidelines.
We've come a long way since March and I fear there's still a long way to go. But listening back to these bulletins, I'm reminded what a privilege it is to do this job and document a moment in time that we'll never forget. I had it on my